A little while ago, I showed you a Gruul deck in Pioneer that was really focused on dropping a mana dork on turn 1 and curving out into something awesome 3 CMC on turn 2. I found a deck recently that has been doing well in MTGO Pioneer leagues that goes a little bit faster. Let's talk about updated Gruul in Pioneer. Video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. Let's talk about the updated version of Gruul Pioneer that I found online. But first, if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button down there, it really helps us out. You know the drill. Let's jump over into this deck. Right as soon as we talk about the deck, we're going to have some gameplay just after, so make sure you stay tuned for that. This deck goes a little bit quicker than I was used to with Gruul Aggro in Pioneer, and it's all the better for it. You're running Burning Tree Emissary so that on turn 2, you are just dumping stuff onto the battlefield. There are crazy games where you have 3 Burning Tree Emissaries in hand by turn 2, and you're just like emissary, 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 and it leads to ridiculous starts. As you can see, there's a lot of focus being put on the 1-drop slot. We want to get in and attack early and often. That's why we also run 4 of Gallia of the Dance. I like that Gallia of the Dance plays well with Fire Drinker Satyr. That was an excellent little combo there. I could play Gallia early on and then drop a lately drawn Satyr to swing as a 3/2 with haste, instead of having to wait for it to come back around. In the 3-drop slot, we're running Reckless Bushwhacker. It's not that difficult to get 3 mana onto the battlefield and to play something like a Cackler or something like a Satyr. Hopefully you've got a Gallia, or something like a Bomat Courier that even has haste built in. Play Bushwhacker for surge cost, swing with your whole line. That's going to give each creature you control +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. Gore Clan is great. It's pulling double duty. It's actually been in the Gruul deck for a little while now. Pay 2, creature gets 4/4 and trample until end of turn, and then you're top ending it with Embercleave, which is probably the best aggro card that exists right now. In the sideboard, you've got Magma Spray and Roast if you need to keep the ground clear. You've got Rending Volley if you're playing against spirits in particular, but if you need to keep the air clear against white-blue. Karizev's expertise in Rampaging Ferocidon against the life gain strategies. Mono White's been running pretty rampant. I found that it was great in those matchups. I find that Karizev's I used more often than not to grab an Uro from Sultai decks and swing for the win. That was a pretty cool use of it that way. That's a basic overview of the deck. It's an aggro deck, you know, Anax, 1 hem on the battlefield before there's board wipes. Atarka's Command is just whatever mode you need. Can't gain life, 3 to each opponent to finish the stuff off. Creatures a little bit of an Anthem effect. You know the drill. It's an aggro deck. You want to go hard, you want to go face. Let's look at how it plays against some different matchups right now. Time to Gruul some things down. We look at this opening hand. It's okay, but the Rootbound Crag and Game Trail, we really don't like the lands in this hand. Other than that, we've got a great 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. You know, we're right on the cusp, but we just didn't have any untapped lands to come in like the first 2 turns. We didn't want to be that far behind. We end up having to go down to 6, and we're good with this. We've got a Game Trail, we've got a 1 and a 2-drop, and another good 1-drop. That will come in as a 2/2 to back it up. So we see mono reds going across the table from us. We top deck another creature, which at this point, that's what we want. We don't really want any more lands. 3 is really good for this deck. As long as you've got 2 red sources, that means you can cast your Embercleave as long as 4 creatures are attacking for 2. And so that's really as high as you want to get. Rakdos Cackler comes in as a 2/2. I'll tell you, I very, very often unleash the Rakdos Cackler. That's what that one's supposed to do. Late game, it can be a chump blocker if you just need to buy yourself an attack or something, but that's what you're looking for. And also right there, we're looking to maximize damage. We've got the Fire Drinker Satyr in our hand, but if Gallia survives, it can be a hasty creature for a 3/2 body with Gallia on the battlefield, so we're good with that. Here we've got enough to just absolutely dump stuff onto the battlefield. We've got Bomat ×2, we've got a Fire Drinker Satyr as a 3/2 coming in with haste, and our opponent is tapped out. So they've got Flameblade Adept on the battlefield. It's going to do 1 damage. We can fully swing here. We don't care, and we can activate Gallia's ability, because if we lose the Bomat Courier, fine, but we'll get to draw 2 cards, and we're looking for heat, and that's what we draw. We see an Anax, we say a Burning Tree Emissary. Our goal here is to get Anax onto the battlefield as soon as possible, because we've got a battlefield full of creatures and we don't want them wiped by Storm's Wrath or, you know, Anger of the Gods and Pioneer probably. Want to be able to survive that board wipe. We're seeing some kind of mono-red discard deck happening across from us. Insolent Neonate. This isn't something I have a ton of experience playing against, but, you know, they seem to be doing their thing, but we've already got them down to 9, and then we top deck Embercleave. So, we can play a land. We got to do some math here. We can attack right now and not have to worry about any of this, but we wouldn't be able to play Burning Tree. There's no need to play Burning Tree. We might have wanted to play Anax before the attack, but we'd rather Embercleave, and we can't do both on this turn. So there's an example of us needing a little bit more mana than 3, fully contradicting myself from earlier. So with this block, they're at 9. We definitely want to Embercleave here, and we have the opportunity here because we're Fiery Tempering, things are getting targeted. Now we can see which we want to fire, which we want to Embercleave, and obviously it's the Satyr yet again. We're going to lose a little bit of power on there, but, you know, that's fine. The concession happens when we drop Embercleave, surprising no one, and we go into sideboarding. So we know that we're playing against some mono-red deck with a lot of little creatures on the battlefield. So we can bring in the Magma Sprays to kind of clear the battlefield out. Ferocidon doesn't have a ton of value here. You know, we want to be able to clear the ground a little bit more, so we can take out 2 Atarkas, put in the Magma Sprays, and just give ourselves the ability to possibly push out those little blockers on the ground so that we can attack through. This opening hand is absolutely a slap. You've got Bomat Courier turn 1, Burning Tree Emissary into like Zergo Bellstriker dash, or just Bellstriker on the battlefield. You can also go Courier, Burning Tree Emissary, Reckless Bushwhacker. You've got some options with this opening hand. Then we draw the Embercleave as well, and we're going to have 4 creatures onto the battlefield pretty quickly. Here we've got the Insolent Neonate is on the battlefield, and we're trying to decide if we want to attack with the Bomat Courier or not. We figure we might as well, if we can clear their creature on the battlefield with our 1/1, that's fine. They've got 4 cards in hand, which means they mulled down, so they're already at a disadvantage. So if we can rob them of their resources, as you can see, we have no shortage of attackers right now in our hand, and so we can swing there. They choose not to block, which is what we assumed was going to happen. We start going off with the Insolent Neonate. They've got a hollow one on the battlefield turn 2, so that's the point of the deck. We say to ourselves, a hollow one. Also, you've got Ox of Agonist over there, if I can speak. So we don't want to forget that. Burning Tree Emissary is going to drop in. We're just going to want to put stuff onto the battlefield right now. You know, we want to go Embercleave over. The first plan of kind of rush is a little bit out the window at this point. So we can use these mana to get more creatures onto the battlefield so that we can get an Embercleave swing down. Or the other option here is use that 2 mana, 2 Reckless Bushwhacker, but that's only going to put across maybe 4 whatever, and, you know, that was fine. Right there, we should have used that extra mana to Courier. We have a little bit of a punt there, but we also don't want to go crazy with, you know, possibility of Anger of the Gods coming in game 2 in this deck. I could see that, well, especially if it's Hollow One, because Anger wouldn't kill the Hollow One. Bellstriker dies, Hollow One swings in, and we're like, okay, so that's probably not the best thing for them to do. They want to close this game out quickly, but they probably want to get a couple of bigger creatures onto the battlefield and start punching through with 1, because on our side of the battlefield, we can put across some hasty damage pretty fast. Right there, we don't want to activate Gallia's ability because Embercleave is in our hand, and we don't want to lose our Embercleave. It's only a 2 of in this deck. If it was a 4 of, we would feel more comfortable taking that chance right there, but we don't want to lose it since we have it. So it's a race at this point with this deck. They've got 3 cards in hand, we've got 4. If we draw a land, we can cast Embercleave next turn on attacks. Conversely, we could also put Anax onto the battlefield if we're really worried about a board wipe. Then we see Ox happen. We got Fiery Temper happening, but they didn't have enough mana to cast it. So they do attack with Hollow One, and they have an Ox. So here's what we have to do. We have to get creatures onto the battlefield, like I've been saying. We need to get creatures onto the battlefield because if they're swinging in with the Hollow One, we can take 3 more swings from that, but chances are they're going to start swinging with that Ox as well. So we're either going to have to block, or next turn we're going to assume that they block the Fire Drinker Satyr, and we drop the Embercleave on the attack because the cost will be reduced down to 2 from Embercleave's ability. And then we see it, Sweltering Suns, and we're like, well, F&A, Cotton. That kills the Ox, the Hollow One survives, we're down to 7. Now we're down to 3. And we got a little mana screwed in that game, not gonna lie. Anax would have been huge there. We were feeling the board wipe in our soul the entire time. So we go to game 3. The Hollow One early on got us in that game. So let's check out what we got. We've got Lava Coil if we're really worried about Hollow One. We've got the Ferocidons. We can also just take their Hollow One early if we want to. The Magma Sprays weren't hugely impactful there. If they do get an early Hollow One, I'd rather be able to take it, swing in for a little bit of damage. And so we're going to go that route this time. We look at the opening hand. We don't like it. We are going to mull this hand. So, we see a Stomping Ground Mana Confluence hand, and we're like, okay, we like this a lot better. What are we going to throw back, though? We'll throw the Satyr back, because we don't want to be taking any more damage than we already are going to from the Stomping Ground probably being shocked in, and the Mana Confluence dealing damage every time we cast it. They land, say go. They're at 7 cards. They didn't play anything that turn. We're going to go into attack with our Bell Striker. Play a land, say go. We didn't have anything on, available that turn. Probably should have just played Stomping Ground. Don't know really what we were trying to, ape at having or try and bluff that we had something cool that hand. Anax goes right onto the battlefield, no response, so they didn't have any instant spell stuff. We do see a Cathartic Reunion, though, and they get rid of lands in their hand. Means they must have just been absolutely flooding out so far. We'll see if that was able to course correct them a little bit. We draw another Haster, which is nice because now we are 1 off, but we're also kind of scared of the board wipe, and so it's like, do we play it? We can save it in our hand, we can cast it post, we punt a little bit, but honestly, this is the kind of thing I would rather make 1 mistake out loud than 2 mistakes privately. I really don't want to have the possibility of, 2 mistakes really screwing us up. We drop the Stomping Ground. We're going to take all the mana here that we can get. We're at 18. We're fine. We're attacking with all. We're definitely going to drop the Embercleave onto the Anax. They don't have instant speed. 3 mana damage because Fiery Temper would need a discard. And we've got the concession from our opponent, and we take it down. We win the die roll. Hooray! Entering into our second match here. We didn't like that opening hand, so we mulled it. Too much land. We've got a 1-drop, 2-drop, and a 3-drop with this hand with 3 mana. Who could ask for anything more? That's what we're looking for. We unleash the Rakdos Cackler, and we pass. We're going to have 4 damage on turn 1. No, we're not. We're playing against an Elvish Mystic. That means either green ramp. We've seen mono-green walkers bumping around a little bit here lately. We see the Zergo Bell Striker. We can cast that with dash, so we're just going to save that, stay on curve. Possibility we top deck a Satyr next turn, and we'll get in for some Surus damage. We see a Wolf Willow Haven, which is fine. It's not really bothering us. Then we see another Llanowar Elves. Okay, so now we've got 5 mana that we're staring down on the other side of the board. We need to go quickly because they are. Here, where Anax makes the most sense, you could possibly go Bell Striker Bomat and swing in, see if they're going to block with their Llanowar Elf. Chances are they wouldn't, though. We would rather have Anax on the battlefield so that we got a little bit more power to potentially block a big green creature that's dropping in, or the ability to get around any kind of deaths with more 1/1s that Anax brings when he dies. They play more mana. They've got 2, 4, 6 mana on the battlefield on turn 3. Pretty nasty if you ask me. So we'll see what they do with it. They got 2 mana floating, and we wait. Anax has no haste, so the little spin happens, and we see a Karn the Great Creator. They go into their sideboard and get an artifact. Whatever will they get? Let's look at their reveal zone. They get a Shadow Spear. Ooh, this is one of the plays of that mono green Planeswalker deck. 4 of Karn and a toolbox of cheap artifacts in the sideboard to go get. So we need to attack Karn down, which we can do. We've got a lot of power, and they concede they must have been feeling the damage coming. So here, what do we got? We got creatures entering the battlefield. Sure, we'll do some damage and make sure they're not gaining any life. They got more big creatures on the battlefield coming. Absolutely, we'll deal 5 damage to them. That's fine. We bring in the magma sprays as well. We definitely want to kill those Llanowar Elves. We're on the we're on the draw of this game, and so we want to kill those Llanowar Elves. That would be the game plan going into this matchup. We see our opening hand, and honestly, it's pretty keepable. We've got our sideboard, one of our sideboard cards. We've got a 1 and 2 drop to keep us on curve. We've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 drop actually to keep us fully on curve. Top deck of the Century there would have been a magma spray, so we could ace that elf before it even had a chance to live. However, we'll have to be satisfied with roasting it, which hopefully we'll get the chance to do before it's too late. Wolfwillow Haven comes in, ramping them up even more. Llanowar Elf is attacking. Okay, that's fine. I guess the Rakdos Cackler can't block, and they're not going to block with it. Might as well. Let's stay on curve, and we'll just keep attacking. There's 4 damage. We're at 19. You're at 16. Say go. Best right there, in my opinion, just to stay aggressive. We want to get as much damage on there as we can so that when we sneak across that late damage, that's really what seals it for us. Things get bad here. We've got Vivian, but we have the roast. So, we can roast down the Burning Tree Emissary, and we are 1 power off of being able to take the Vivian completely out. However, taking her down to 1 means that she can't use that middle mode, which is the fight ability, and so we can take her down to that and make sure that all the Planeswalker is able to do is distribute +1/+1 counters and give trample temporarily. We have a plan. We can Bushwhacker. We have a plan. We can Gore Clan. We've got 2 of those, so we can make something +8/+8 and trample in a pinch if we draw 1 more land. Best thing to do here would be possibly Gore Clan and then Reckless Bushwhacker with the Surge ability. However, we're still on 3 mana. That's fine. Llanowar Elves is a 3/3, and we can Gore Clan. So they're at 2 on the Vivian. We want that Vivian off the battlefield. If they lose the Vivian, they've got 2 cards in hand. They got 3 mana on the battlefield with their forests, and they don't want Llanowar Elf to die, which is what we're going to do here. This is just a huge turn here. Gore Clan Rampager ability on the Gallia, killing the Elf, killing the Vivian at the same time. We've really got our opponent on the back foot, and they were on the play this time. 4 mana is a Karn. They're going to go get an artifact from their sideboard. At the very least, see what they have as far as artifacts in the sideboard that can do this thing for them. And find that they have a Walking Ballista. Okay, sounds good. So, here, we can Bomat, we can Reckless Bushwhacker Surge. Absolutely, we're just taking it down there. It's a really fun deck. I was getting lucky, and players obviously were dropping from matches before the match was completely finished, but I was winning a lot with this deck, and the cool part is that it was a fun deck to play. It's one of those decks, if it burns out, you know it burns out, but it does have some top deckable ability with Embercleave, with Gore Clan, and Anax, able to kind of seal it up even in the late game, even though it doesn't have a ton of longevity. I appreciate everybody watching. Like we said, if you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe, it really helps us out. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. Link is down in the description below. We have monthly giveaways over there, really cool stuff. Go check out our Patreon, see if it's a good fit for you. And if you want to hang out with us, we're streaming most Tuesday, Thursday evenings over on Twitch. Appreciate it. Catch you later.